Are the forces arrayed against UFO disclosure? Let's talk about that and a whole lot more. It's time for another UFO News Roundup. So get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Oh, and if you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, please consider becoming a channel member. See the first link in the description below. Okay, let's just get right to it. Okay, a tweet from Ross Coulthart links to this very interesting article, Government Weaponization Accountability in the UAP Question. I'm not going to read the whole article, but it does talk about some of the enemies of disclosure, and I think that is worth highlighting. The most prominent voice of opposition to clarity and accountability on the UAP subject is Mike Turner. Turner represents Ohio's 10th district, which encompasses Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Not coincidentally, Wright-Patterson was the headquarters for Project Blue Book, which became the government's disinformation program designed to delegitimize UAP inquiry and research. It's also the location of the infamous Hangar 18, where it was alleged the Roswell materials were stored. And Ross Coulthart himself has called Wright-Patterson a veritable parking lot of UFOs. That's a direct quote from Ross Coulthart, and that is in Mike Turner's district. Is that a coincidence? Probably not. Turner is the chair of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. As such, he's in a controlling position to influence the construction and/or defeat of two critical pieces of legislation, the Intelligence Authorization Act and National Defense Authorization Act. These two proposed pieces of legislation are critical in securing the transparency and accountability necessary to make substantial headway and enabling continued analysis of the UAP question, especially as it relates to federal government and corporate involvement in the alleged reverse engineering of advanced non-Earth origin materials. The article goes on to say that Mike Turner has denied being part of the cover-up, but, I mean, of course he would, right? The article also has an interesting quote from Lou Elizondo. He says, he told Town Hall regarding the proposed legislation, the effort by some in Congress to create new legislation that further increases transparency is truly historic, and those members should be praised the loudest for their courage and drive. Unfortunately, there remain elements in Congress that are opposed to such legislation and transparency. We must ask ourselves why that is. Why indeed? Are they simply under the sway of the big corporations, the big tech companies like Lockheed Martin, or are they actually direct agents of the control group? I don't know, but it could be an important question. Either way, they are enemies of transparency and disclosure, and it's good to start singling these people out. Bit by bit, we're putting the pieces together. In other news, the famous Metapod video has been stabilized. So let's see if we can make any heads or tails of this crazy UAP. That is a weird one. What is that thing? Gosh. Now, my best information says that the Metapod was released, the video was released in 2015. If you have run across different information, let me know. But that's definitely within the age of CGI. And so, you know, entirely possible this could be CGI. But it is so singular and interesting and well done if it's CGI. That, you know, I take the Metapod seriously, and I certainly think it merits further study. What do you guys think? To show another cool video, we've got some cool orb action. Check this out. Some of you are fans of orbs, some are not, but this is really interesting because you can kind of see the structure of these orbs. You can see these little lines moving inside them, like that one right there, hinting at some sort of structure. really intriguing orbs. I think orbs are super fascinating. I used to do ghost hunting, and orbs would come up. I've got lots of videos of orbs that are like really good orbs. Unfortunately, I can't share them with you. Yeah, we were investigating a really great haunted house, and we my ghost hunting team was investigating this haunted house for like 6 months, and finally we asked permission to use the video that we had. Much of which was compiled from the house's security cameras, and the owners would not allow us to release that information or those videos. So we stopped investigating that house. But we had some amazing orb action, and so I love orbs. I know they're real, and I would love to know what they are. Now, of course, there's different sorts of orbs. There's the more metaphysical orbs, like these seem to be, and then there's the alien orbs, like the Mosul orb and that sort of thing. But very intriguing to see this structure, and you can see it moving from frame to frame in this video. Really cool. Really cool. Oh, and here's an older quote from Jim Sparks, a really interesting alien abductee with a lot to say, and his experiences really have informed me a lot on the UFO phenomenon, especially in how they deal with people regarding brainwashing them to be pro-environment, which is really an interesting aspect of his experiences. But he has a lot more to say than that. He has a very complicated and long history with his abductions. He was originally very hostile toward them, and over time he actually grew to work with them, even assisting them in abductions. Even one particular group abduction, this mass abduction that he participated in and helped the beings perform. Really, really fascinating story if you haven't studied Jim Sparks. But he has this one really interesting quote that the Juan has just retweeted, and I think it's worth sharing. In a meeting on the ship, the beings told Jim Sparks that they had made agreements with leaders of the Earth so that steps would be taken to correct the environmental condition of your planet with our advice and technology, but that these had been broken. These agreements had been broken. This was the reason why they were concentrating their energy on the average person like himself. So there you go. That's what the beings told Jim is why they abduct people, or at least part of the reason why they abduct people, is to spread this message of being good to the planet. Of course, they're also creating hybrids and doing all sorts of things. There are consciousness procedures, and we don't even know what all they're doing, but at least a big part of it is focused on the environment. We see that time and time again. Just as a repeated message that they tell both abductees and contactees. In the aerial school sighting, that was one of the messages. And that is a repeated refrain throughout countless alien or non-human encounters. They may not be from here, but they care about this planet. And they're not happy with the way we've been treating it. On the other hand, maybe they are from here. If you've studied the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis, I can't say that word, it's entirely possible that they've been here longer than we have. Personally, I don't think the UFO phenomenon is monolithic. I think there's many different aspects to it, probably countless aspects to it, more or less. But I would not be surprised at all if there were indeed beings, intelligent beings, that had been on Earth longer than humans had. In other news, I finally got around to watching the episode of Beyond Skinwalker Ranch with Chris Bledsoe. I had tried to watch it on the History Channel when it first came out, but History Channel was glitching on my computer with the ads. So I waited for it to drop on Amazon, and I checked out the episode. A wonderful episode. So they actually have Chris summoning or inviting, whatever he's doing, UFOs. They have that on camera repeatedly with the UFOs showing up. And what's even cooler than that, they actually strapped a brain scanning device to his head to measure what his brain activity is doing while he's engaging with these UFOs. And they were able in real time to see what his brain was doing when he was summoning and interacting with the phenomenon. And it's amazing. So, apparently he is able to go into a deep meditative state instantly and instinctively. They said, a Buddhist monk could get to that level of meditation after meditating for a while, but he can do it like that. And then all of a sudden, he will receive communications from the beings. And they can measure that in the brain because the communication center of his brain was activated, but not the giving communication, the receiving communication. They can isolate that part of the brain. And so the receiving part of his brain, the communication part, was activated. And then all of a sudden, his brain lights up. He goes from this deep meditative state to this hyper-aware state where his brain is just going nuts. And he says, boom, there's a UFO. He gets that communication. He knows it's coming. And then he's actually interacting with the UFO. And he says, there it is. And it comes. It's amazing. It's a bombshell episode. If you haven't checked out that episode, I think it's the penultimate episode of Beyond Skinwalker Ranch show that I'm now like 5 episodes in, after I watched that one. Really great show. Great show. And but it's kind of it's an annoying teaser because each episode they go to a really cool location, and each location seems like it could be the basis of a show. So I mean, maybe they're planning on more spin-offs to Skinwalker Ranch because some of these locations are definitely worthy of it. But anyway, a really great episode showing, first of all, proving that Chris is interacting with the phenomenon in a very direct way, and that the phenomenon responds to his call, and also learning what his brain is doing during that experience. Great stuff. Meanwhile, Will Gallison, a UFO researcher, goes on Talk TV and has some really interesting things to say about the alien bodies. And he's done an in-depth breakdown of the alien bodies, and he shares some of that on the show. And he points out that there are competing factions of researchers who have studied these things, coming to extremely different conclusions. Some of them have studied the skull, for example, and determined that it's a llama skull. As was previously thought, or at least by me. I totally bought the debunking and believed that it was a llama skull. But future, later researchers have come to the conclusion that indeed it is not a llama skull. And so we have this war of researchers, doctors, and scientists who have studied these bodies, coming to wildly different conclusions. This only highlights for me the need for more science done on these specimens, because we're in the fog of war on all this right now. We have competing information. Anything is still possible at this point. They could be real, genuine specimens of some race we don't know about, or they could be relics from some ancient culture. I'm still on the fence about it, although after that CAT scan, I'm definitely leaning toward these being genuine anomalous specimens. But my mind is still very open on this, and I think we need more people. I would love it if Gary Nolan and Avi Loeb and other people jumped in on this and examined this in a very big way. I'm not as excited about NASA or a NASA contractor getting in on this because I don't trust NASA at all. But I mean, that's still intriguing, and maybe you can make the argument that a contractor of NASA would be better than actual NASA. So maybe there's that. But anyway, it does look like more people are getting interested in these, whatever they are, and are willing to study them, and I can't wait for that to happen. Anyway, that's it for today's UFO News Roundup. If you have enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. If you wanted to share this video on social media, that would be super groovy. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, please consider becoming a channel member. See the first link in the description below. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel, and I'll see you next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.